Hola amigos, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be chatting about how we fit writing into our busy lives, and to help me I have invited some of my friends, all of whom have got very different lives, different writing experiences, but what we do have in common is that we have all managed to get books out there into the world. So how on earth did we manage to do this and fit in the writing time? So first of all, we have Andy from Self Pub with Andy. Hey.
Hi.
Next up is the lovely Estelle.
Hi.
And then last but not least, look at me doing all the buttons and everything, is the wonderful Tracy Mayhew. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So we're going to go around clockwise so everybody can introduce themselves if you don't know them. So we'll start with Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy. I run the YouTube channel, Self Pub with Andy. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube mostly. I'm not really on Facebook, but I just basically share Self Pub stuff and my journey and my knowledge and whatever I want to share, basically. I'm currently working on a fiction book. It's going terribly bad. But maybe one day I'll get that fiction book published. I have published non-fiction stuff, and I've also won awards for it. So feel free to come check out my channel. I shall see you there. Thank you, Emma, and everyone for having me today.
Cool. And that book is not going terribly. I happen to have inside information. It's actually going really well. Estelle.
So hi, everyone. Hi, Emma. Thank you for inviting me on your channel. So I'm an indie author of 2 books, 3 if you count my translation. And I'm in the middle of rewriting the second draft of a nonfiction book about pregnancy and motherhood. And I'm also querying a middle grade novel.
Excellent. You're a busy woman. And Tracy.
Hello everyone, my name is Tracy Mayhew. I run a YouTube channel at Tracy Mayhew Author. I publish YA fantasy and contemporary romance fiction as well. I've published about 26 books to date. I am a hybrid author. 10 of those have been traditionally published and they're like children's books. But yeah, so that's me.
Excellent. And obviously links to everybody's YouTube channels and websites and anything else will be down in the description below. If you haven't been to my channel before, I'm Emma. I'm also a hybrid author like Tracy. I write contemporary romance, children's picture books, and non-fiction for authors. I'm also a freelance developmental editor, a book coach, and a writing instructor. So I fit a lot into my life like we all do. So yeah, how on earth have we all managed to write these books and get them out there so that people can read them? So exactly. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to bring up as a discussion topic is whether we actually prioritize our writing in our lives. Now, obviously, to extent we must, otherwise we wouldn't get it done at all. But what extent do we prioritize our writing? I want to hear from Estelle first about this one, because Estelle, you're completely amazing. I do not know how you manage everything. So how would you answer this?
I have a secret. I don't prioritize my writing in my life. It's
Sure.
just because I'm at a season in life where I'm prioritizing my career switch rather than writing and self-publishing. Just because I want to pivot from digital marketing to design. And that's very time consuming, and it takes a lot of energy. I also have a toddler, whom you might have heard in the background because he's crying because his dad wants to take him away, but he doesn't want to. He's not collaborative, but that's okay. So yeah, at the very moment, I'm not prioritizing my writing, but there were times where I did. That's how I managed to, self-publish 2 books, whereas 3.
Excellent. I have just noticed that we've been joined by somebody else. I'm going to add her to the stage, everybody. It is the lovely Nicole from Nicole's Bookish Nook. Hello, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. How about you all?
Hi, Buttercup.
We
Good to
are
see you.
good.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself, because everybody else has, and then you can answer whether you prioritize your writing in your life?
Yeah, I am a self-published writer, and I do many genres, but I have separated the urban fantasy, and that's under Nicole Brona, and then the other genres, which are many, are under my given name. And I try to prioritize writing, mix up those words, but luckily I write better than I speak. But I could do more, but I also have to balance 3 jobs. So that can get tough. I'm sure everyone out there has had that point where you're like, I'm just too tired and I'm going to self-care and not write today or this week or maybe this month. That's happened. But at least I am getting in writing once a week for 2 hours when I do my live stream, though I probably have to do a little bit more, at least with this current book that's halfway written. But I'm not gonna beat myself up if I happen not to. It is busy season for my full-time job, so.
Fair enough. Tracy, I imagine that you are a little bit like me in that because some of your books are traditionally published, there are times when you have to prioritize because you've got deadlines and there isn't really anything that you can do about that.
Well, actually, I don't traditionally publish books anymore. I just purely self-publish. It was just a period in my life when I was approached. When I first started out in my career, I was going for a traditionally published career, but that didn't work out for me. So I ended up self-publishing my first series, which was the Prophecies of Fate series. And while I was in the process of doing that, one of the agencies I had approached for that series with, they approached me and asked me if I would be interested in writing a set of 10 children's books about Arthurian legends. So for about 2 months, I was churning out those books. I had about 2 weeks to write those books, each of those books. So it was about 2 months or so to do that. And that was really tough because I was also I am a supply teacher and I was balancing that as well. So that was challenging. But after that, I've not traditionally published since then. And that was 2020, those books came out. So now I'm just self-publishing now. But yeah, it is hard to balance the writing with my job, with family. Now I've added YouTube to the mix as well. So that has to obviously be a priority to a certain extent as well. So it's just a matter of finding ways to find that balance. And sometimes the writing does kind of slip a little bit for whatever reason, tiredness, bad week, bad day, whatever. But then I am looking at publishing my next contemporary romance book in the next few weeks. So right now I am prioritizing my writing again. So yeah, that's how it goes at the moment anyway.
Sure. And Andy, you're another person with a lot of things going on, a lot of pans going at the same time. So would you say that you prioritize your writing?
I go in seasons. So it depends on how the work is and everything else. There are days I do prioritize writing and other days I don't. So it varies on a week-to-week basis and sometimes on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah.
So I have to keep the schedule kind of flexible for that. And it helps that I'm essentially fully self-publishing at the moment. And even if I do get a trad deal, I'm thinking it'll probably be I'll fit that around, if you know what I mean. So, but that's like a long time in the future. I don't even know if I'll get there. But yeah, I do prioritize my writing sometimes, but not all the time. So it just depends on the week and the month.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. I mean, all of my work is writing related. It's either writing or doing editing jobs or teaching writing or doing book coaching. So it's all kind of under that one umbrella, if you like. But there are times, like if I've got a manuscript which needs to be with my publisher, then I obviously need to prioritize that as much as possible. And other times when, you know, I might film more for YouTube, or I might have like a big editing job or something like that. And obviously also family life, like that has to come first. And it does for all of us. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's what you prioritize in life, isn't it? And the writing is very much, you want it to happen, and hopefully it will, but it's not the be all and end all, I think. And that's one of the great things about self-publishing, is that you can like work to your own deadlines, and you can move things about to fit in with everything else more, which was something that I really, really liked about when I was more self-published than I am now. Kind of missed that. Okay, so next, what I wanted to ask is, do you guys tend to work in big or small chunks? Because when I first started writing properly, like writing my first contemporary romance, my youngest was only 2 years old, and my eldest must have therefore been 8. I've got 4 kids. And so I got very, very good at making use of whatever little chunk of time I had. I would always have a notepad with me, not usually a laptop or anything like that, but, you know, if I was waiting for them to finish an activity or something like that, I would work on a scene, or even if sometimes standing in a queue in the supermarket or anything like that. I just got very, very good at using these small chunks of time. And that's kind of a skill that has stayed with me, although I do tend to work in bigger chunks now. So do any of you purposefully kind of choose to work in big or small chunks?
I prefer to work in big chunks, but I break those big chunks into like sprints of 20 minutes or so. So I'll write for 20 minutes, have a 5-minute break, and then do another 20 minutes. Life doesn't always work out that way, though. So like you, I carry a little notebook around with me. This is my little notebook. All my ideas go into it. I do take an iPad and a portable keyboard to work with me at times, and then if I've got time during my lunchtime after marking or whatever the books that for the class that I'm teaching that day, I might squeeze in 10 minutes or so to have lunch and, you know, do a little bit of writing. But I do prefer working in big chunks where I can just sit down and write. But as I say, it doesn't always pan out that way. I've also started, this was thanks to my mum actually, downloaded a voice recorder on my phone. And I've started to just record stuff when I'm out walking the dog or whatever. And I don't have my notebook with me. So like the other day, an idea struck me. So I pulled out my phone and was able to just make a voice memo, got back home and was able to write that down somewhere and work that way. So yeah, it's just about finding different ways to kind of get those ideas amalgamated into one place, really, I guess.
Yeah, I'm famous for working in very small chunks. I do not do large chunks of work. I used to, and essentially I'm burnt out. So now I make sure I work around small bits of time. So like 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, anything more than an hour, I kind of start losing steam. You know, so I try and keep my work bits to anything between 15 minutes and half an hour typically, and go from there.
Yeah, and it's funny because Andy and I work together a lot, but we sometimes we work in similar ways. But if I'm really involved in the story, and particularly if I'm editing, I will get completely lost in it, and I won't move for like 4 hours. And I'll suddenly go like, oh, I really need to pee. Like I haven't realized, because I've just been so engrossed in it, and I would just stay in that spot and carry on. Whereas Andy would have been like, he would have gone to make a tea. He would have gone to go and play with the cat. He would have watched a bit of Netflix. He would have gone for a little walk, like all these other things, while I'm just sitting there in like complete crazed mode. But like, you find out what works for you, don't you? What though gets in the way of writing for you, other than just like with me, it's just me, like I get in the way of writing for me. There's no other way of putting it. I'm dreadful. I am the queen of procrastination, and other things don't stand a chance compared to me just getting in the way of myself. But what is there anything in particular when it actually comes to sitting down for writing time, when you have time set aside and this is what you're going to do, that actually gets in the way? Estelle, I imagine it's the toddler.
Yes, but he's a very good napper. So, for example, today he napped for 3 hours straight. So, like, I'm really, really grateful for him, because that's how I ended up writing SEO for authors during his naps, basically. So, what gets in the way of writing for me is more like the time. So, basically, I don't have a lot of time. But when I do get time, it's hard for me to get in the zone, because when I haven't written for a long while, I need to read my stuff first and then try to focus and then get in a zone. And sometimes it's really, really hard. Beside all the other things like life,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Tracy, what about you? Is there anything in particular that gets in the way?
Yeah, I have migraines. So with the job that I do, my day job, if I have a stressful day, I come home with a migraine, and then that's it that's me done for the rest of the day.
So frustrating.
So yeah, the hot weather can cause them as well. So summer can be a bit of a challenging time writing wise as well, which is so annoying because I get that break in the middle of summer. So, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So, but yeah, no, migraines for me would be the issue.
Yeah, no, that's not good at all. Andy, apart from me, is there anything that gets in the way of writing for you?
Yeah, I think like Tracy, I'm hugely affected by the weather, especially hot weather. It's just like there's only so much you can take off, right? Whereas winter you can put on more clothes. Whereas in summer there's only that much you can take off. And no, I do not write in the nude, just so people are clear. Yeah,
that was kind of what was being insinuated there.
I just wanted to make that absolutely clear, really. Yeah, I mean,
well, we don't know, Andy. We don't know for sure, so you could be.
I'm not doing a video or taking pictures for proof. The weather affects me quite a lot. Generally, life, like things will pop up with my other things, but I do try and. The problem with my writing is that I'm very much a mood-driven writer, so I kind of need to be in the mood. So if I'm doing something else, I'm probably not going to be in the mood for writing for, a good little while. You know what I mean? And my brain has to be in that kind of zone for me to write. But when I am in the zone, then I end up writing quite a lot. So yeah, I can go for a few days, like 2, 3, 4, 5 days or whatever, not writing. And then when I do write, I get the inspiration to write. I end up doing like a few thousand words. So on average, I don't know, I probably average like 5 words a day. So it's quite low. But basically that's how I work. Weather gets in the way, other things get in the way. But I try and, if I can, whenever I'm in the right mood, to try and seize that opportunity to get some words in.
Yeah. And Nicole, is there anything in particular that keeps you away from your writing?
Probably just being exhausted.
Yeah.
At the end of the day with those many jobs. But on Thursdays I push through it. It helps that I have a co-host, so I'm not completely on. And also sometimes, I've just been adding in sangria.
Oh,
so
okay. I mean,
it's
that
working.
Really be
Everyone is working. Or so, it was the first one. Yeah. The first one was hard lemonade. I got a little too tipsy whipsy. Not like I'm a bad tipsy / drunk, but I was just really happy. I was very chit chatty on a stream that's for productivity sprints. So then I switched over to sangria wine, and I go by when in doubt.
Mhm.
If it's okay with you personally, obviously, if you have issues with alcohol, don't do this. But write tipsy, edit sober.
That
Fair
is,
enough. This is
I've never heard of. I mean, I know people do, do that, and I think I need to try that actually. I feel inspired to
Because it doesn't
try
matter
that
how
today.
tired you are. You're just going
yeah,
because you're
yeah. You
happy.
just and it gives you you just feel so much better. You're like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. I am so talented. And then you start
Yes.
crying at how talented you are. It's like
No.
the whole thing. It's great. Yeah, definitely recommend it.
Well, also it gives you not as what was that? I do have a perfectionist streak, but does that help for a first draft? No. And then it gets worse when I'm exhausted. Let that go. Get some sangria with some blackberries and raspberries, It's
There we
almost
go.
that season, so it's going to be a really fun time. I just need to get a draft done because I'm actually into editing more than drafting. Weird, I know. But yeah, I think also you have to figure out like what could you do maybe a little extra to mitigate whatever is holding you back, or and even if that means just doing like a Neil Gaiman thing where he writes 5 minutes and that means it's 20 words, that's better than zero. And he eventually got Coraline written, and I love that book. Side note.
Yeah, well, it's like James Clear's Atomic Habits, which Andy and I both really love. It's setting like these small things that are achievable, and then if you do more, great, but at least you're setting yourself up for success by having these small things to aim for. Yes, highly approved. When you're talking about how much writing you get done, do you tend to measure it in time spent or words written? Like, are you happy if you sat down, you're like, okay, I had half an hour, I sat down, I did something? Or is it more like, as long as I write 500 words or something like that, I'll be happy? Or do you not care?
For me, it's whichever makes me feel best. So I don't feel like
I like that.
I don't feel like a complete loser. I feel like I've done something. Something's better than nothing.
Okay. So last time I was drafting, actually, I tend to measure by words written, and I wasn't happy if I hadn't completed like 500 words or something. But nowadays, I measure time. Because the thing is that I have so little time at the moment that if I don't measure time instead of words, I feel, like hopeless.
Sure. Yeah. It's like Andy says, it's kind of whatever makes you feel better in that you've managed to get some writing in. So let's look at it in the most positive light, I guess. Yeah. What about you, Tracy?
I tend to measure in words. I'd like to be able to say that I could be like Andy and Estelle and, try and think about the positives. But, there are some days when I just think I've got to get to 1,000 words, and I push myself to get to 1,000 words. And that's how I measure it. I have a little, I have like a bullet journal where I have word trackers that I highlight all the, like 100 words is per square kind of thing. And that visual thing just makes, there was a point, I think it was right at the beginning of the year, where I wasn't writing anything, and it just made me feel like, I'd only get like 500 words done or whatever, and it was just like, oh, I've got to do more. But yeah, so sometimes that works against me, but yeah, I do like the visual of a word tracker. Yeah.
Okay. And Nicole, I mean, you might not be so corpus mentis after all the sangria, but like as much as you're able to, how do you measure it?
I actually, the last few times I got over 2,000 words in 2-hour sprints. So
That is nice.
But I have to watch the numbers because I have OCD, and then the subtype would be numbers OCD, and so I have to not pay too much attention to numbers, or else I can create obsession with compulsions, and that's not great. I've had that before. It's really annoying. So I'm also doing what I'm pretty sure the vast majority of people are not doing, but I do self-exposure, or it would be ERP for OCD, where sure, maybe my brain wants me to get to 500 words, but I'll get to like 456 and we're done here. It's a little, I have a interesting life. It's the same thing when I'm reading books or whatever. Like, it wants me to stop on an even or an odd page. I'm like, we're going to stop on page 311, not 310, 311. So that's also why I do not completely pay attention to word count, though I will like overall word count, but not necessarily per chapter, because I can get into muddy waters. But then if I do, then I'll mess with myself. It's fine.
Sorry, I've got a question for Nicole. Do you measure how much sangria or beverage of choice you drink?
No, because then where's the fun in that?
Oh, no, fair enough.
Sometimes you just gotta let it go. Like Elsa, let it go. Just keep pouring. Okay, that's appropriate.
You need the appropriate container for that. So instead of getting like a glass or a cup of wine, you just get a jug and just start pouring.
You have a jug of sangria, of course.
There you go.
Yeah, but you can't take the whole jug. That would be inappropriate up here.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you have to keep like stopping writing so that you can go and get more. So if you make the jug, then you get more
Makes
words in.
complete sense. Yeah, pro tip right here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Do any of you need to be in a particular place to write? This isn't something that I need because of, like I say, years of just training myself to be able to take advantage of any time and just start writing something, a scene, part of a chapter, whatever. But do you like need to be in a particular place when you write?
Yes. Yes, I do need to be sitting at this very desk. Otherwise, I can't concentrate enough. Also, I don't really have a laptop at the moment. I only have this desktop one. So if I'm not here sitting at this desk, I can't write anything, well, except on paper, right? But with a toddler, it's very, very hard to, be able to have a notebook and not having the toddler trying to get my notebook.
I've got
and
so many of my notebooks have got little drawings on. There's like one page of my writing some scene, and then on the other side there's like a picture of a cat or whatever that some kid has drawn on there. Yeah.
I used to need somewhere to write, but I realised quite quickly that if I've had a bad day, if I'm having a bad day at school and by the time I get home I don't feel like writing, I don't get anything done, and like a whole week will go by and I won't get any writing done. So I kind of had to take the chances where I can. I have places where I like to write and where I prefer to write, but I don't need to be in them to be able to write, if that makes sense. So, yeah, just take the chances when I can, really.
Sure. What about you, Nicole?
Well, I have an office, so I always write here, and I don't like laptops because it hurts my wrists and hands, because it just doesn't work for me. But if it did, I would have a laptop and I would go everywhere. It's not a problem, and Did I? I mean, I had a laptop when I was in high school, and I clickety clacked all over the place. But none of those drafts have been published. Okay, I'm just because I clickety clacked a lot wherever I could on a laptop does not mean that that was good. But now I just am hanging out with my lovely books, and hopefully they inspire me, and I'm just here. But it's a great setup, so I'm often inspired anyway, even if I can't move.
Nice. Andy, I know that you tend to write in the same place. Is that just how it's happened, or is that where you work best?
I like to work mostly in one place, and then every so often I tend to move to a different location. And it's one of those things that we read about in James Clear's book. He explains it much better. But basically, it's like a change of scenery. So I know I'm mostly in the office, but sometimes when I go to like the dining table, that kind of puts my mind in a different frame of mind kind of thing. And I don't do that very often, but when I feel like I'm not progressing, then I will actually try that. I will literally move myself to a different location to see if something will work.
Yeah, mix it up a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the one place I really can't write for long is the garden. I always think it would be lovely to go and write outside, but the bugs, honestly, like after about 2 minutes, you just, the bugs are everywhere and you can't concentrate and it never works. And I end up coming back inside. Do you have any tips for writers struggling to fit their writing in?
I found time blocking recently has helped me. So I never used to have a digital calendar, but now I have, like, I use Google Calendar. It's like I can't survive the day without Google Calendar now. So every Sunday I would plan my week as much as I can, because obviously being a supply teacher, I don't know necessarily what days I'm working. So I'll block in as much time as I know that I can spend and dedicate to my writing, and then I would color code that. And then I would set up a notification just like 10 minutes before the time it's due, so that if I've forgotten about it, my phone will remind me, and then I'll know to, oh yeah, I've got to go and do some writing. So then I take myself off somewhere or get my notebook out or whatever. But yeah, I found time blocking really, really helps me.
I think a two-parter would be know what your goals are, because it's going to be different if you're a hobby writer and maybe all you want to do is publish on Wattpad or ink it. Like that's totally different than, let's say, oh, I want to be traditionally published, or I want to be a 7-figure author. Totally different ways to go about writing. And then also, even if I think you're doing different types of goals and how you reach those goals, you have to be having fun in some way or another. I mean, sometimes it's tough and you're like, okay, I want to cry. That's going to happen. But I think for the majority of the time, you should be having some type of fun and experimenting. And then if you're dragging your feet and you're like, I don't want to do this right now, but I have to, then I would look inward and say, why am I feeling like I have to versus want to, or I desire to put art on a piece of paper? What is stopping me or hindering me about wanting or desiring to release this piece versus I need to, and now I don't feel good about it? And that could be a long process to figure out, but at least starting is really good.
Just want to add 2 points. So one point is a mindset kind of thing. So remind yourself, like Nicole said, why you got into it, and hopefully that pushes you forward. And the other one is a practical one, which is a James Clear kind of atomic habits thing. Set really, really tiny goals. Yes, really tiny goals. If you're struggling to write one word, sit down for 5 minutes and get one word in, and then you're done. And then next time get 2 words in, and then you're done, and keep building from there. I would avoid anything that pressurizes you into feeling bad about it, with negative feeling on writing. So avoid anything that makes you feel bad, basically. And then if you are putting pressure on yourself, then maybe say, well, I only need to do 5 minutes of this. You just 5 minutes and then take a break. Or 5 minutes per day until you get back into the swing of things. And that has helped me anyway. So goals and small, reflect on your goals and then really small steps to push you forward. These are my 2 things.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be realistic about what you are able to achieve, because there's no point in feeling bad because you can't write for 2 hours a day if you don't physically have 2 hours a day available that you can do that. It's not about being lazy. Everybody has other things that they need to do. And also we all need time to decompress and to relax and for self-care and things. So it's taking a look at the time that you've got and what can you do with that? Can you move things around? Is there, time that you maybe hadn't considered? Maybe you could get up earlier, maybe you could stay up later, make better use of lunch times, like Tracy does, something like that, so that you can fit some more writing time. Right. Do you think your writing time changes with the season of life you're in? For me, this definitely did. I mean, now that my boys are older, and some have even left me, I have so much more time available to me in order to work. It's a huge luxury, and I absolutely love it, knowing that I can spend hours if I want and completely get lost in my story, as opposed to being very aware that I've only got half an hour or an hour. Have any of you found a similar thing with your writing in different seasons of life?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I really find there's a difference between having a life without a baby and now having a life with a baby. And I added even more difficulties to this by having a career switch. So, it's a different time in my life. Before the baby, I could write anytime I wanted. After my son was born, well, I had maternity leave, so I could focus on writing while he was napping. It was lovely. And then I had to balance work and taking care of a little one and writing and YouTubing and whatever. And now, yeah, it's really difficult. It's always like balancing things between taking care of a family and also writing and also YouTubing and also trying to be happier in my work, basically. And I find it very difficult to find which one to focus on. Because even though I would love to be able to write all the time, I know that I need to focus on something else. And that's sometimes really hard as well.
Sure.
But I do carve time. So that's okay.
Yeah, you do. Well, I think if there's one thing that we've discovered that we all have in common today, is that there are times when we definitely all struggle to find the time to fit the words in, whether we are somebody who is lucky enough to have writing as their full-time job or has up to 3 jobs. In the case of Nicole, whether you've got other side projects, whether you've got children or other family members who need you, it definitely isn't easy at all. So thank you so much to all of my guests for joining me today to talk about this. It has been absolutely lovely. Make sure that you check out all of their YouTube channels if you haven't already. The details will be down in the description below. Please make sure that you boot the like button if you have enjoyed this discussion, and subscribe if you're not already, because we have a great time over on this channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.